Thank you. Good afternoon. We're here today to answer one simple question. Does Congress have the power to transform our nation's capital into our nation's 51st state by simple legislation? For historical, practical, and most importantly, constitutional reasons, the answer is resoundingly no. Now, while some have said that the objections I plan to discuss today are specious legal arguments, are bad faith arguments, as Mayor Bowser has previously said, this just isn't true. Both Republican and Democratic Justice Departments who have looked at the issue have said that a constitutional amendment is required for D.C. statehood. More troublingly, some have said or implied that race or racism is behind these objections. Again, that's just not true. These objections are based on the text and structure of the Constitution. Delegate Norton's predecessor, Walter Fauntleroy, did not favor statehood for the District of Columbia because he said it would be in direct defiance of the prescriptions of our founding fathers. Even Mayor Bowser's predecessor, Walter E. Washington, the district's first home rule mayor, for practical reasons, opposed statehood for the District of Columbia. He said that the federal interest in the city goes beyond Pennsylvania Avenue, it goes beyond Constitution Avenue, and that the federal interest and the city's interest are intertwined, that to tear them apart would rip the city at the seams and would threaten its continued viability. So what are the constitutional objections to D.C. statehood? Well, the first and most significant involves the 23rd Amendment. Now, advocates for H.R. 51 certainly recognize that the existence of the 23rd Amendment poses a constitutional problem for them. Unfortunately, H.R. 51 seeks to deal with this problem in a wholly inadequate and itself unconstitutional manner. It seeks to nullify the clear commands of the 23rd Amendment that the district constituting the seat of government shall appoint electors for president and vice president, and it proposes to nullify this by simple legislation. It does propose a constitutional amendment and hopes and encourages Congress and the states to pass it in order to avoid the absurd result where only a handful of people living in the new nation's rump capital would control 3 electoral votes. It should be clear to everyone that Congress should not nullify a constitutional provision by simple legislation. Now, we've also heard the argument that the Admissions Clause, Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution, allows Congress to take this action, and that, in fact, Congress has previously taken this action 37 times in our nation's history. Well, fair enough, but for our purposes here today, the Admissions Clause is constitutionally irrelevant because none of those other 37 states owe their very existence to a separate constitutional provision. The district owes its existence to the District Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. But even if Congress could transform the district into a new state by simple legislation, we have to ask the question whether it should. And again, the answer is no. The framers of our Constitution wanted a separate federal district to preserve the safety and security of the federal government. We've heard some mention of that here today, but it doesn't take much imagination to imagine a different mayor or a different city government disagreeing with the federal government over essential security functions. In fact, we saw some of that this past summer. The framers also wanted to avoid one state having undue influence over the federal government. There's no question that D.C. residents already impact the national debate. For the members here today, how many of you saw D.C. statehood yard signs or bumper stickers or banners on your way to this hearing today? I certainly did. Where else in the nation could such simple actions reach so many members of Congress? And then there are practical reasons why the district should not become our nation's 51st state. It would be our nation's only city-state. It would be 17 times smaller than our next smallest state and would lack many amenities and resources found in nearly every other state. Unfortunately, H.R. 51 takes a grant statehood now, work out the details later approach, especially with regards to funding for courts and prisoners. There's no question that years of litigation, nearly every law or action passed by the new state or the federal government could be called into question, and that even a future presidential election could be called into question if the 23rd Amendment is not resolved. Advocates for D.C. statehood do no one, not themselves, not the district residents, not our nation, any favors by seeking D.C. statehood in this manner. Because if we stretch and bend the Constitution, even for what we may perceive to be laudable purposes, where will we turn in the future when we may need its protections?
Thanks for watching the Heritage Foundation's YouTube channel. With more than 500,000 members, we are the nation's largest conservative research and education institution. We believe the principles and ideas of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing. Please help us further our mission by subscribing to this channel and sharing our videos with your family and friends.